What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and it's Top 10 Thursday. I was just sharpening my giant fake sword here and I started to think, in video games we get some pretty insane weaponry. From explosive sheep to nuclear reactors we can wear on our shoulders. Really anything is possible. This week though, I want to find the most bizarre stuff ever on my picks for the top 10 totally crazy video game guns. Number 10. Rift Inducer. The Ratchet and Clank series has really gotten famous for having some of the weirdest tools of destruction around. These goofy friends aren't afraid to use some random alien technology to kick butt and save the galaxy. The Rift Inducer stands out from the rest though for its mind-bending way of working. By building up quantum energy, this device tears a hole in reality, allowing tentacles from another dimension to reach out and start grabbing bad guys. It's a sight that's absolutely shocking to see, and no matter how often I equipped it, I could never get used to how freaky it was to watch in action. Number 9. Gravity Gun. This entry is such a classic that many of us kind of forget how odd it really is. The gravity gun was invented by scientists hoping to make a new way to move heavy objects, clear dangerous areas like minefields, and chop zombies in half with saw blades. On the surface, that might all seem simple, and yet when you have this machine in your hands, you realize how strong it can be. Lifting small objects and firing them at hundreds of miles an hour can essentially make this function like your standard rifle, but if you do something a bit more crazy like infuse it with dark matter, it can throw entire cars. The gravity gun changed how most of us not only solve physics puzzles, but also showed us how unique combat could be in gaming. Number 8. Dubstep Gun. Sometimes in life, you just gotta drop the bass and laugh as the crowd goes wild. In Saints Row 4, we play as the President of the United States, who unfortunately is trapped in a huge digital world. In order to escape and get back to running America, we have to master the programming of this computer. Since this place isn't real, the developers went extra far to bend the rules as to what can normally be done in a video game. For some reason, our hero has superpowers, the ability to fly, and our weapons make no sense. Of everything we can wield though, nothing is sillier than the dubstep gun. Think of this as a boombox that pumps out music so good that people can't help but dance, even if they're in the middle of trying to kill you. Number 7. BFG. Imagine unleashing 10 million tons of force in a single second right into the face of an unsuspecting demon. That's exactly what this gun was made to do. Dispensing this raw power can turn anyone in its path into pure liquid. This weapon earns its spot on the list not just because of its nasty explosive capabilities, but because it has the guts to have multiple levels of strength. The BFG can be charged to do up to 4 times the firepower, making it go from disgustingly mighty to a bullet that can slay the devil himself. The first time I picked this gun up, I immediately knew I was carrying a device that could change the course of human history. With just a single pull of the trigger, you could make the biggest, baddest demon nothing more than a bloody mess on the floor. Number 6. Super Sheep. I always like when a designer makes a project that goes far beyond any average style and instead forms its own rules. The Worms games are all about murdering your opponents with wacky items and being the last man alive. While being able to call in airstrikes, set landmines, and use kung fu are all crazy enough on their own, one tool seems to defy any sort of logic. The Super Sheep is a gun that acts as a homing missile that we drive manually. Once he leaves your arms, our cute little creature puts on his magic cape and takes flight. By guiding him to our enemies, you're rewarded with a shockingly massive explosion. Honestly, I've used this weapon to win countless battles, but it still makes me chuckle every time I see him take off because I know that when he touches the ground again, it's gonna be utter chaos. Number 5. Lancer. There's something special about a game that can take 2 ideas we already know about and combine them together to make something we never would have thought of. Gears of War takes place on the planet of Sarah shortly after an apocalyptic event has wiped out a majority of our species. Those who survived the initial attack by the evil Locust have now built an army of their own to push back these invaders. Taking on such a monumental task is going to require some heavy-duty tools, and the main asset the Gears have in their arsenal is the Lancer. This machine gun fires fast and reloads in less than a second, but its real charm comes from the giant chainsaw it has on the bottom. Whether cutting through doors or gooey enemy bodies, this gadget practically wins the war all on its own. Nothing can quite compare to the amazing joy of walking up to a hideous locust soldier and chainsawing straight through him. Number 4. Mr. Toots. Brace yourself for perhaps the weirdest thing you might ever see happen in a video game. Mr. Toots is a happy, magical unicorn that can be found after beating the main story in Red Faction. While typically you wouldn't want to take something this cuddly and cute into a battlefield, this adorable little buddy serves an important purpose. He can fire glorious rainbow lasers out of his butt that destroy anything they touch. When you lift his fluffy tail, Mr. Toots emits a nuclear beam of light that can melt buildings, people, and even armored tanks. What helps this go from sorta normal to outright hilarious is the faces he makes. His eyes roll around in his head like the mere act of farting these lasers is blowing his own mind, but when you stop shooting, he just begins to cuddle you. I'm not sure who invented this gun, but I seriously hope they got paid a nice bonus for this bizarre idea. Number 3. Gunchucks. Bayonetta is a character that's used to being totally absurd. This witchy badass has personally pummeled her fair share of Dark Angels, but she couldn't have done it alone. Her huge array of pistols, whips, and hair-based magic assists in her conquest. Of all the things she owns though, the Seifung, or gunchucks as most people call them, take every moment to the extreme. With these in Bayonetta's grip, she can stun, stagger, or shoot hundreds of targets a minute. As each blow lands, a bullet leaves the chamber simultaneously, doubling the damage of each swing. Unlocking this deadly combination of martial arts and modern technology transforms you into the most dangerous being on Earth, and has enough stopping power to kill a god if necessary. What makes me love the gunchucks more than anything is the concept that Bayonetta is really the only creature that can hold them. If a regular human picked them up, he'd probably die from pure awesomeness. Number 2. Red Foam Finger. In the coldest reaches of space, there's a station home to thousands of families. All is peaceful here until an outbreak of necromorphs, terrible zombie-like monsters who turn corpses into hideous pieces of murder and mayhem. Isaac Clarke has the bad luck of waking up during this infection, so he puts on his gear and gets ready to burn it off the station if it's the last thing he does. These beasts are very tough to kill though, requiring you to cut off limbs one at a time in order to slay them. If you are able to finish this game on the impossibly difficult hardcore mode, you gain access to this red foam finger. By merely pointing this at foes, their arms and legs pop off, they're pushed back, and if they're still breathing after one hit, a second shot will easily make them explode. Even the last boss can be defeated with just 2 zaps of this weapon. The red foam finger simply stands out for being so funny. After spending so many hours scared in Dead Space, the fact that we're given a toy that melts monsters instantly is absolutely surreal. Number 1. Cerebral Boar. Back in 1998, Acclaim Entertainment released a sequel to their wildly popular project, Turok Dinosaur Hunter. For this follow-up, they wanted to make sure they took the action up a level to give gamers a true thrill. In that regard, they succeeded with flying colors by introducing new enemies, more complex gameplay, and a set of guns that we never could have imagined. Being able to hunt down twisted intergalactic soldiers with a supercharged bow and arrow or throw a razor blade boomerang was epic, and yet the pinnacle of guns was the Cerebral Boar. Much like the name says, this is a machine that fires tiny missiles that lock onto brains. Yes, that's right, this thing is mind-blowing in the most disgusting sense of the word. No matter how quickly they run or where they try and hide, the boar will always find them. For its bloody good use, totally gross-sounding noises, and basically overpowered damage, I'm awarding this my pick as the craziest gun in gaming. Did your favorite insane weapon not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I actually do crazy amounts of research on every one of these top 10s. And I found out that in the original Gears of War, they wanted it to be a circular saw at the front of his blade, not a chainsaw. Look at that. It's kind of strange looking, honestly. You know what? I'm glad Cliff Bleszinski went with chainsaw. It looks a lot scarier. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, maybe check out my last video. Please subscribe, and if you want, share this somewhere with your friends.